But we're going to get the program started here. I'd like to welcome everybody to Boot Barn. Is Chris Phillips in the room? There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, our host, Chris Phillips in the Boot Barn. Give it up. Thank you to you and your staff for hosting this evening's Biz&Brews first annual, sponsored by Benton Capital. Pretty exciting here. Where's the Benton Capital staff? Where are they? There's one. Little shout out to our sponsors, Benton Capital. Thank you very much for having everybody here tonight. All right, and then we have Fly High Photography, David Copeland. David, right here. Another one of our sponsors tonight. Then we have Heritage Title Company, Eileen Wolf. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, David. Thank you, Chris. All right. Tonight I have the pleasure of introducing our host, who is actually, he and a bunch of his staff were exposed to COVID earlier this week and opted to sit out but do it virtually. So you're going to meet Mike Benton through a Zoom call, like we know what that's all about. But bless their hearts, they just wanted to err on the side of caution and not create any stir or exposure if they came in contact with it. So there was a little bit of a risk, but they're going to make sure they're presenting this evening from Zoom. So if we could have Mike Benton, Division President of Benton Capital, and we're going to direct everybody to look overhead and at one of the screens.
Hey guys, I'm Mike Benton, Division President of Benton Capital Mortgage Lending. So sorry we couldn't be there tonight to welcome you personally, but due to some COVID-related issues, we felt like it would be best to kind of hang back. But we also didn't want to throw in the towel, because that's not what we do in life, and that's definitely not what we do in business. We wanted to make sure that you guys were able to have fun, enjoy your time networking at our first Biz&Brews, which will be a quarterly event that we're excited about hosting here in Colorado Springs, to bring in amazing speakers like Mr. Green, and we're so thankful to have him here tonight. Sorry we can't be here. I have Jen Weiss, who I'm so thankful to have put this event on for you guys here with me, and wanted to also thank Fly High Photography, Heritage Title, and also North by Colorado Media Group for assisting us in this first event, and we're excited to have you all. And again, sorry we can't be there, but I'm thankful for all of our partners, our team there at Benton Capital, and all you guys for being there tonight. Appreciate you guys.
And I just want to second Mike's remarks there. I want to say hi to everybody. I was still looking forward to seeing many of you that I already know, and reconnecting with some of you that I haven't seen for a long time. And those of you who I have not met, I was going to make a mad dash to meet every single one of you tonight. But it is not about me. This is about you guys. So I hope you have an enjoyable evening. I hope you find the networking to be worthwhile. And we'll be able to meet sometime in the near future. So anyhow, you all have a fabulous evening.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Bless their hearts, they're stuck at the office. Well, I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker this evening, who is going to give us an overview on kind of the economic development situation in Colorado Springs. And after his presentation, he's willing to take a few questions, so I'll be wandering around the room. Just put your hand up if you have a question, and go ahead and ask your question, and we'll do about 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. All right? Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers appointed Jeff Green Chief of Staff and Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Colorado Springs in May of 2015. Jeff is originally from Thomaston, Georgia. Right on. He attended the University of Tennessee. That's where you and I differ, brother. I'm an Ole Miss guy. Sorry about that. All right, where he studied economics and finance and received a commission in the United States Army upon graduation. Military service brought him to Colorado, where he remained working in the banking and health insurance industries after separating from the Army. In 2001, Jeff began his career in local government service at El Paso County. During his 14 years there, he served as county commissioner from 2006 to 2015 and was honored in 2011 as the Pikes Peak Region Public Official of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Corporation. Jeff serves on the board of directors for the City of Colorado Springs, the Colorado Springs Sports Corporation, the Pikes Peak Workforce Development Board, the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC, and previously the United Way of the Pikes Peak region. He is a member of the Regional Leadership Forum at the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs Chancellor's Advisory Council. Jeff has lived in Colorado Springs since 1995. He enjoys golf, very nice, reading, history, and the quality of life here in the Pikes Peak region with his wife, Nancy. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chief of Staff and Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Colorado Springs, Mr. Jeff Green.
Thanks, Dirk. It's a real pleasure to be here this evening, and I won't speak too long because I don't want to keep you too far from your liquid libations, and I know how important it is to be able to relax. And I have some prepared remarks that I will be presenting to you this evening, and then there's going to be some questions. And this is your opportunity to be able to ask questions about what's happening with the city, what's interesting about the city, and any concerns you may have. And I can answer some questions, and then I may have the appropriate staff that will respond back to you. First of all, I want to give special thanks to Mr. Hobbs for introducing me, and also for Benton Capital for sponsoring this evening's event. It is a real honor to be speaking to you. You are true leaders in our business community. I never hesitate that when the mayor and I are discussing policies as it relates to the City of Colorado Springs, the first thing that I always do in our discussions is say, what is going to be the impact to our business community? Colorado Springs is an extremely exciting place these days. Despite the national and international pandemic, our local economy and our business ecosystem has continued to thrive. Just recently, we learned that the City of Colorado Springs was once again ranked among the top 10 places in America to live by U.S. News and World Report. But among those top 10, we are the #1 most desirable city in America the third year in a row. As we talk about development and construction, there's construction happening throughout our city. But I think when you go to different cities, you evaluate the cities by the number of cranes that you see in the air. And our downtown is really booming. When you look at the number of business development and residential development that's happening in our downtown core. Some of those new venues have been truly transformational. The heavily awarded U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum, together with a modern state-of-the-art pedestrian bridge, is changing the city's skyline. It connects us to the America the Beautiful Park and the emerging Park Union District. Widener Field is drawing energetic crowds to downtown Southside, where it will anchor another commercial business district. And the brand new hockey arena for our own Colorado College Tigers will soon be completed with generous support and financial contribution from Ed Robeson, who graduated from Colorado College in the 1950s, served our country very well, and has spent most of his career in the development industry. Those are just some of the downtown developments. In reality, economic growth is occurring in all corners of our great city. At our city center, The William J. Hibble Sports Medicine Center is welcoming students and patients alike on the fast-growing and one of the fastest-growing campuses of the CU system, University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. Up at 14,000 feet, the new Pikes Peak Summit House is welcoming crowds who drive the highway or who get there via the rebuilt Cog Railroad, a more than $100 million investment by Philip Anschutz. Next week, the Space Symposium will convene in the Broadmoor's new 200,000 square foot convention center. Along with the massive Amazon developments in the southeast, Flywell's 210,000 square foot development at Peak Innovation Park near our own Colorado Springs Airport is the largest speculative office development in Colorado Springs in nearly 20 years. North of Grumman is also in the midst of a $100 million expansion in this area. And I just want to comment, when you talk about economic development, you're talking about investment. A few evenings ago, I had dinner with some leading business leaders from Denver who are very concerned about what's happened in Denver and the lack of business support. And one of the things they stated that was of greatest concern is the lack of communication and collaboration between the mayor's office and the city council. And so when John Suthers was elected, there was three things that he said we're going to do, and we're going to do it well. Number one is we're going to collaborate. And with the collaboration of our city council and our mayor's office, that incurs political stability, and based upon that, the result of that is major investment. And since John Suthers' term as mayor, billions of dollars have been invested. Just today, before I came here, I was meeting with a group of Denver investors who are preparing to invest over $100+ million in this city in the next 2 years. On a more personal, and this is something the mayor and I are very pleased with, is the opening of Topgolf last week. The mayor and I are great observers of the game. We try to play well, but don't play so well. But it was really important to us that the mayor couldn't wait to be there for the ribbon cutting of the Topgolf golf complex. Also, we're very excited soon with the groundbreaking of the United States Air Force Academy Visitor Center. That is the last anchor of the City for Champions project. It's pretty impressive, especially when you take into account that much of the progress that I have talked to you about this evening happened during the pandemic. We're very fortunate Colorado Springs has emerged from the pandemic in great shape, and we are one of America's most resilient cities. City revenues are back and coming in at levels higher than returns in 2019. Thanks to our diversified economy, which continues to thrive, thanks to the mix of military, construction, healthcare, and tourism, all of which remain strong. Have you told me in March of 2020 that we'd be looking at a $20 million Tabor revenue excess just 18 months later, I would have told each of you that you were crazy. The city was looking at financial calamity. We were losing millions of dollars in tax revenue due to the federal shutdown of this country and the state. Yet here we are. Next week, our city council will hear a proposal from our mayor to ask voters to allow the city to retain that overage without raising taxes to create a wildfire mitigation fund which will be self-sustaining. Currently, our wildfire mitigation efforts are dependent on insecure grant funding. All of us who have breathed the smoke in the past week, as it is, we know that the fire will happen and there will be a fire again soon. And I can remember being the county administrator during the Waldo Canyon fire and the Black Forest fire, and how we were so resilient in that recovery. But the key to why those fires were not as damaging was the wildland mitigation efforts that occurred in our city and our county. And I cannot stress to you the importance of this particular initiative. We saw the news of our city's growth just last week with a preliminary release of the U.S. Census numbers. As most of you likely saw, El Paso County is again the most populous county in the state of Colorado. That growth is vital in continuing to produce a workforce that can support our expanding industries. As industry thrives, we create new jobs, good jobs for our children. As the mayor likes to say, we create a Colorado Springs where our kids and grandkids can stay after they finish their schooling, because good jobs are available to support them. The second initiative the mayor talked about when he first ran for office was, let's fix the economy. If you fix the economy, everything else falls into place. And that's what we've been doing for the last 6 years. As we all know, growth comes with challenges. Ours come in the form of infrastructure. As our population grows, we see increased wear on our roadways, pressure on our stormwater systems, demand for water, and more activity for our first responders. That's why improving infrastructure remains among the mayor's top initiatives, just as it's been since his initial campaign. And we've made great progress. Through voters supported by each of you, ballot issue 2C, we have paved thousands of miles, and last year we paved 1,000 miles. The 5-year extension that was just approved will allow us to keep up that progress and extend improvements into our residential roadways. For the last 5 years, we're focused on major arterials and minor arterials. For the next 5 years, we're focused on residential neighborhoods. We have finally resolved our issues with the Environmental Protection Agency, and we have built what is considered among the best stormwater systems in the nation. And our social infrastructure continues to improve. One of the side effects of being an incredibly desirable place to live is the significant increase in the cost of living. We're addressing that issue by committing to the creation of at least 1,000 new units of affordable housing each year. In 2021, we expect to exceed that goal thanks to effective public-private partnerships, tax incentives, and the hard work of the city's Community Development Division. Additionally, we're in the process of rewriting our land use codes to encourage innovation and residential development. We need more lots, we need more houses, and more types of housing to support our growing population. The city and the county recently signed an intergovernmental agreement for the management of future annexations, which are inevitable as Colorado Springs is expected to be the most populous city in the state of Colorado. We're developing a new comprehensive transportation plan to address the needs of all those commuters. This will include public transit, bike infrastructure, roadways for today's vehicles, and the autonomous cars of the future, as well as charging stations to support all the new electric vehicles. Speaking of charging stations, our Innovation and Sustainability Department is working on smart infrastructure to support electric cars, autonomous vehicles, smart street lights, and more. Even our parking meters now text you when your time has run out. All these people moving to the most desirable city in America are attracted by our wonderful parks, trails, and open spaces. To keep up with the demand, City Council will be putting a measure on the ballot to extend the Trails, Open Space, and Parks tax. This will not only help to maintain what we already have, but also raise funds to continue purchasing lands as our population grows. As Mayor Souther says, we're all charged with a vital mission to build a city that matches its scenery a shining city at the base of a great mountain. I am very proud to be part of Mayor Souther's administration. I cannot say that I enjoy my job more each and every day. And I'm very proud to be part of a city government that has made such significant improvements to this community and has such community impact. Actually, what we have done in the last 6 years has had a greater impact for the city of Colorado Springs than it has in the last 40 years. I'm proud to be part of this administration that is committed to furthering the vision of our founder, General William Jackson Palmer. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Question, right here.
Yes, I'm Carrie Kilgore. Have we gotten any update on the Space Force issue in Huntsville, Alabama?
That's a very good question. Actually, tomorrow I'll be meeting with lobbyists that have been retained by both the city and the county and the Chamber of Commerce to have those discussions. Last night I had a meeting with Congressman Lamborn's Chief of Staff and our discussions about how we further our efforts. The question that I had, the City of Colorado Springs retains Brownstein. It's one of the largest lobbyists in Washington, D.C., as well as in Denver. And I asked, what is our possibility of being able to change the decision and be able to retain the Space Force? And they were very favorable in that discussion. At this point, we're playing a waiting game. We have to wait for the investigations and the Inspector General's reports to be released. We're anticipating that information will come out early part of 2022. And then based upon that information, the city and the county will be prepared to respond.
Wendy with a question.
Yes, good afternoon. I was wondering when we could expect the final conclusion of the Powers connection to I-25.
You know, that's something I've been working on for 10 years. What I will say is with the Herculean efforts of Gary Erickson and working very closely with the City of Colorado Springs, our goal is in the next 5 to 7 years to be able to complete the connection. The connection that's being built today from I-25 to Voyager is very important, and then we're very committed to completing the connection from Voyager to Highway 83.
Okay, we have Lisa with a senior question.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, first of all. My question is, what are we doing in regards to support senior citizens in our community as far as resources, assistance, as well as more housing opportunities as they transition to Medicare?
That's a very good question. Actually, part of some of the affordable housing initiatives that we're undertaking at this point in time, there's going to be a large component that's going to be dedicated to supporting senior housing. Also, the city and the county work very closely through the Area Council of Governments, which has programs regarding aging, and also there's Innovations in Aging, which is a forum in which the city supports on how we promote greater benefits and provide better access for our seniors. As our population is aging, we're trying to be very sensitive to the needs of our seniors. And one of the things we identified is we're identifying affordable housing opportunities for our younger population. We have to also identify the same needs for our seniors.
We have Dee Whitaker with a water question.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. From the airport, we had that water contamination that did a number down in Whitefield Fountain, and I am wondering how we are on the resolution of that issue.
Well, I can't answer that question directly. It was a contamination that occurred through the Air Force. I know the Air Force is working very closely with the issue as it relates to Peterson Air Force Base and working with the local jurisdictions. I know that there's a lot of testing that's occurring. What I can say, I can address how the City of Colorado Springs is looking at water, how we're looking at water usage and water conservancy. but I know that there is a process for the cleanup of the water, and as far as I know, that the city has committed to working with the water districts to provide assistance through a regional collaboration between Colorado Springs utilities and the smaller water districts and the other municipalities. But that specific question would have to be referred more back to the city manager for the city of Fountain. That's Mr. Scott Trainer, if you have.
Over here, Jeff.
Yes.
This is Lois with a question about the homeless situation.
Yes.
Well, you just covered it. What are we doing? What are we doing about our homeless situation?
I will say the mayor has made a strong commitment that we will now allow ourselves to become what's happened to Denver and what's happened to the downtown Denver area. That's one of the reasons why a lot of investors are leaving the Denver area. The city of Colorado Springs, one of the things you have to be very sensitive to is that there's been a liberalization of the laws. And so the laws and the regulations and the ordinances the city of Colorado Springs had in place 10 years ago that we could enforce have changed. And so you can no longer ticket or cite someone for loitering. You can no longer ticket or cite someone for panhandling because there's freedoms of speech associated with it. The federal 9th District Court is one of the liberal courts. And they have sided more with the ACLU than they have with the governmental entities. What we are doing, though, is to address those legal issues as long as you can provide adequate number of shelter beds. Then what the city is doing is enforcing that we're not allowing illegal camping in city parks or trails. Our quality of life team, which is through our neighborhood services, is one of the busiest departments in the city. Every day we're cleaning up homeless camps and we're moving those individuals and providing assistance to them. When you look at very specific models, I have evaluated models that we have in San Antonio, Texas, that's been very successful, and also models in the Phoenix and Maricopa County. And our commitment is to work with the Springs Rescue Mission, Catholic Charities, and some other organizations on how you look at housing. If you resolve the housing issue, you will resolve the homeless issue. And first of all, you have low barrier sheltering so you can house these individuals and provide the wrap services they need. It's also the social assistance they need, the social workers that's required to provide that assistance. And so the city is committed in the next 2022 budget is to have the alternative response teams that are going out to advise these individuals, provide assistance to them, and direct them to the right locations for services. What we're not going to allow is for our community and our parks to be taken over by the homeless. We're a Christian city, we're a very benevolent city, and we want to ensure these individuals receive the right care. But at the same time, we have to ensure there is still the respect of those laws and those ordinances that we can enforce.
Thank you, Jeff. Right down here in the middle, we have Troy with a question about rezoning.
Knowing as the city continues to grow and balancing growth versus preserving the beauty and the appeal of Colorado Springs, how has the city continued to approach rezoning, in particular in key areas like Garden of the Gods and the rezoning efforts that are being conducted currently?
Well, I can't speak specifically to that project because it's a quasi-judicial matter that will be considered by the city council next week. What I can say is that we have very specific land uses, and currently we are basically doing a total rewrite of our land use codes. What we want to be able to do is ensure that as the city grows, we want to promote density and higher density in the right areas, and also promote more of the traditional family residential housing in other areas. As we look at the growing of downtown, there's a greater interest on higher higher residential density, greater levels of multifamily. And then when you look at areas surrounding the west side and what is in the hillside ordinance and the wildland overlay, we'll be very sensitive to how we look at development in that particular area. The City of Colorado Springs is supporting the land use application because the applicant has met all the requirements and the criteria as defined by the city's code. We do recognize this is a very emotional issue. I remember standing there the day at Sierra High School and watching the burst of fire that spread over Mount Shadows and watch it consume that neighborhood, and the city had to respond very quickly to evacuate those individuals. I do encourage individuals who are interested. We will have a presentation on Monday on how the city manages evacuation plans and how evacuation plans are utilized by the city in all areas based upon the type of emergent event that would occur. But I think it's going to be a very interesting process. The rewrite of our city code is called Retool COS, and I really encourage individuals to take an active part in that process.
Thank you, Jeff. We're over here now, and this is our last question for the evening. This is Marisol from Benton Capital.
Hi there, thank you for coming. I just had a question. We currently have a project going on Sierra Madre and Mill Street called the Mill Street Project, and it's part of Working Fusion. And they're building 18 tiny homes to help those that are at risk coming out of foster care and early release from military so they don't end up homeless. What can we do to get city support to help build more of these type of communities? I know we have Habitat for Humanity building homes and things like that, but is there something we can do to get more city support to help maybe make something like this a reality that helps people stay off the street?
Are you working with Shelley Jensen?
We are.
Okay. At this very location, several weeks ago, I committed to Shelley Jensen that the city would provide financial support for that project. The city of Colorado Springs is committed to supporting that, as well as our Colorado Springs Utilities is committed to supporting that. And I think with the support, it's going to allow to move to the next phase of that particular project.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your questions. Thank you for hearing Mr. Green out. Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak to you. I'm usually the person behind the scenes. I like for the mayor to be the primary speaker, but it's been a great opportunity to be able to speak to you this evening. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.